Welcome into the Paul Kuharsky Podcast, live from Nissan Stadium, home of another brutal Tennessee Titans loss, 25-3 to the Jaguars. Brought to you by Edley's Barbecue, the best barbecue place in town, maybe the best restaurant in town, all around Nashville, Tennessee. I ordered in on the app last night. Very happy with my meal. The opposite of what you guys are feeling right now. Titans just brutal. 3 points against the Jaguars in a just ugly game. Any of the progress they made over the last 3 weeks washed away today. They didn't do a damn thing. One effective drive early, get down to the 10-yard line, pass on going forward on a 4th and 3, settle for a field goal, never get in range of the end zone, or even a good field goal attempt again. Jacksonville, meanwhile, does plenty to get what it needs to get itself a win. Rest of the AFC South, pretty interesting. Titans tightening. Just really bad game. Tony Pollard ran well early. They couldn't figure out how to give him continued chances to run because they converted 2 of 12 third down chances. They had 4 3-and-outs. They punted 5 times. They just didn't move the ball. The offense is just an utter embarrassment. Cam Ward regressed. I mean, they want him to take the short stuff, but they don't want him to take only the short stuff. Alec Manor returned from his injury, and I think he caught one of 5 passes for 5 yards. A couple were off target. One was over his head. He didn't make an effort to go up. You got to jump there. Let us see how far over it is your head it is. Dropped the 4th down conversion pass. He was terrible. Restrepo hurt with his late action. 1 catch for 15 yards. Hurt his ankle. Not fractured. Certainly not a season-ending thing. More tests tomorrow for him. 2 tackles, not good. 3 sacks. Cam under fire for a lot of the game. 24 for 38 for 141. 3 sacks. Long of 16. No touchdowns. No interceptions. Fumbled again. They recovered it. 70.2 passer rating. Meanwhile, Trevor Lawrence, 16 for 27. 3 sacks. Threw a couple big passes, a 50-yarder, 111.5. Jaguars, I didn't feel had to work for this game, really. Jacoby Myers caught a 50-yard pass, and I think another decently long one. 6 targets, 6 receptions, touchdown. Just easy. Kind of an effortless win. Absolutely garbage football team, says JDS. I can't do it anymore this season. See you at draft time. I don't believe you. Sean's here to see how many people ask me about Restrepo, to see if I go crazy that I might retire. JP says he knows progress isn't linear, but after last week's semi-competent performance, this week was hopeless. It's really a fair assessment. Lee Jordan's happy with the Christmas tree. Because this team is not lovely. Latham is a bust, the CRA says. Just does not seem to have a lot of fire in his belly. And Elliott says, I've watched every game this season, could not finish today's game. Titans had a great drive for their standards, only to flounder and settle for 3 at the end. Go for it. Now, this is the funny thing is that we've given McCoy so much grief, and he deserved it for his 4th down decisions. Then last week he finally turned into a different guy, went for it. They went 5 of 7. Today, in that early drive, they get down to the 10-yard line, face 4th and 3. He doesn't go for it, kicks the field goal, settles for 3. He loves to score points. He always talks about scoring points. If you're listening later, I'm doing quotation marks. And he acts like all points are equal. If he scores points, that's a win. He doesn't really seem in his head to differentiate 3 from 7, but very big on scoring points. But he tells us after the game that he had decided, sounds like early in that drive or earlier than that, like if we get, he said, to 4th and 2, we'll go, but 4th and 3, we will kick. So that 3 feet makes all the difference in the world to him. And then it doesn't really make sense. Like he said, flow of the game dictates everything for him. He said that all season long, yet he kind of determined it early. And Demoro says, I'm glad they kicked the field goal. Otherwise, we'd have 0. So what? What's the difference between 0 and 3? You could have 7, you could have 3, or you could have 0. Well, who gives a fuck if you have 0 instead of 3? Why not take a shot to get 7? 0-5 in the division, says the CRA. In fact, the rest of the division is respectable except for our disaster of a team, which is really kind of amazing to me. I did not expect the other 3 teams to be as universally decent as they are. Sean King says they have to get the correct coach for this team. Needs to be a take no crap coach. I remember a guy named Vrabel. Yeah, Mike Vrabel would be a good coach for this team. This might have been the worst loss of the season, and that's saying a lot. Well, they were shut out earlier this year. It was really bad, though. I mean, I think if you take the context of the fact that the last 3 games felt like some level of progress, then if you go back to 26-0 at Houston, that was still an awful, awful game. And they did win the next week. I know it was gift wrapped for them by the Cardinals, but they did what they needed to do. But, 27-20 against the Chargers, 16-13 against the Texans, 30-24 against the Seahawks, 3 good teams, and to come out and do 25-3 against the Jaguars, it just totally undoes so much goodwill. Sammy here says he totally fell for the good loss against a good team last week. He means Seahawks are a good team. And there were good things to take out of that game, but this team isn't good enough to sustain something meaningful like that. I'm going to convey to you a couple things said in that locker room that I wrote about. First off, Jeffery Simmons, just kind of overall frustrated, brought up the coach. Once we get through this season, we've got to do a lot of self-reflecting. Whoever comes in to be this head coach, we need somebody who's going to lead this football team. That's it. We've got to figure it out. We've got 5 more games. The culture and everything have to be better around here. We'll figure that out when we get to that. I mean, that's a pretty substantial call out of Mike McCoy. I'm not saying that Mike McCoy doesn't absolutely deserve it, but, these guys have totally towed the company line, and that is not towing the company line at all. I think that's a good thing. Why can nobody on this team catch? Colin wants to know. They go for it on 4th again, and per usual, a drop. I mean, look, the receiving core is not that good. I don't want to hear about 87 solving this receiving core. He's the 5th best receiver on the team. Next year, he'll be at best the 6th best receiver on the team, I would expect. Jared Jewell says, I wasn't against it not going. You can't leave the defense in bad positioning all year long. Defense held up. Offense got to play complementary. Defense held up? I don't know. 25 points. Gave up big plays. I don't call what the defense did today holding up. They didn't create a turnover. They gave up big plays. 25 points for this team. I mean, it's usually standard, but I didn't feel like a defensive winning effort to me the way some of these other games have. It really didn't. Was it more on the wide receivers or Ward? It was a combination of both. I mean, a lot of this stuff was under. Ward was off target on a lot of stuff. He threw balls at people's feet, behind them. Now, Tony Pollard on the fourth down play is facing the quarterback here. He's looking for the ball here. The ball is over here. He's got to be able to make that catch here. He's got to be able to make that catch. That's bad by Tony Pollard. And if that's a possibility on that play, it should be Spears in the game. Now, Spears can't run for shit. I think we've got to conclude that. I mean, Pollard ran well today. They got away from him. Now, Spears has a slightly better average, 4.1 to Pollard's 3.9 on the season. But Spears only carried the ball 39 times. It's 11 more times than Ward, who doesn't run. You know, Pollard's got the beef of it, the bulk of it. But if you're throwing it, I mean, it's clear that the best receiving option out of the backfield is Spears, for sure. For sure. Feel like the Wisenhunt Titans would beat us by 30. I don't know about that. Can't believe, Arjun says, that the worst team in the league feels like they put together a worse year. They have. Dwayne Woodcock wants me to put up something positive. How does this team flip the script next year? What has to happen? Well, it starts with a coach. I mean, look, good coaches come in and help bad teams turn things around relatively quickly. And it sucks that for Titans fans, the current example is Mike Vrabel. But Mike Vrabel took over a 4-win team that wasn't very good. Now, they had a quarterback with a lot of promise, and that quarterback's played well this year in Drake May. Now, Cam Ward, if he makes a similar jump next year, isn't going to be as good as Drake May. It's not as good a prospect. He doesn't have as high a ceiling, I don't think, as Drake May. But he can play a lot better than he's played this year if you give him better people around him, put him in some games where he's not trailing constantly, and give him some consistent coaching that draws up better designs and calls better games than these two coaches and this staff have done. So it starts with a better coach. A better coach can make a big difference. Dan Quinn, first year in Washington, made a big difference. Mike Vrabel, first year in New England, is making a big difference. Sean Payton, Denver, it's turned things around. Yeah, Chris here is saying that Steelers fans are chanting fire Mike Tomlin. Yeah, if you know anything about the Rooney family, they're not going to do what their fans want them to do. They don't fire coach. Yeah, Margot says, does it really matter that the call during the game to go for 3 sucked? Well, sure. Yeah. Better if they scored 7 early. I'm not saying it changes the fabric of the game and changes the result, but yeah, that matters. Bigger problem. Sure, there can be bigger problems. Is Cam looks terrified to let it loose now. Pendulum swung so far into conservative play is bad for development. Look, there's a middle ground between Cam always looking for the home run, always being the hunter, looking for the shot and not taking an easy 6-yard play, and Cam being overly conservative. And he was overly conservative probably today, but I think the Jaguars did a good job of taking things away. The Titans receivers not very threatening, and that was a bad combination. Did Elam play today? Yeah, he got himself a unnecessary roughness penalty. Sammy says, sorry if it was covered already, but Simmons' comments make me think McCoy doesn't have this locker room. He doesn't, clearly. I know interims don't get fired, but damn, it's tempting to you right now. I mean, Titans would be an absolute laughingstock if they were the first team ever to fire an interim coach. And then your coaching staff dwindles numerically. And look, clearly everybody likes Fossil, and Fossil would be a good interim coach, but it's difficult to sign a guy to be your interim coach for, what do they have now? 5 games. Just got to make it through the 5 games. Fossil, part of the reason you couldn't make a interim coach is because you want him back as your special teams coach. It's difficult to promote a guy and then bring him back down. I am told a double play away. What a pathetic performance, he or she says. Did they even practice this week? I'm told they practiced this week. I actually, for like the second time in my career covering the NFL, went to a family Thanksgiving gathering. So I was not at any practices this week. Breaking Through says McCoy acted like losing by 6 was winning a Super Bowl. You know, I would have written more about this had I been around last week. I do think when you are as bad as this team is, you did need to acknowledge some level of success to have hung with Seattle the way they did last week and treat it as some level of achievement. It was a good loss. And look, I asked another guy or two on the beat, you know, did that feeling last into Wednesday? Because there was a good feeling around the team Sunday and Monday. And then we only talked to the coordinators on Tuesday, and they were normal. Wednesdays are generally upbeat around the Titans. I mean, they get over whatever happened, and they move on. They live normal life. And so, you know, my colleagues told me that Wednesday was a normal Wednesday. So, I had recorded a video. I never did put it up about feeling a little bit torn. Like, you know, and you don't want them to treat a loss like it's a win, but at the same time, you know, they did make some gains, and they should, you know, in a year like this, where I said, hey, this season's going to be all about Cam Ward's progress. I expected it would come with some wins, but over the last 3 weeks before this week, he had shown some progress, and I think it's okay to let yourself feel okay about Cam Ward's progress there. So I don't think they recovered well from that near win, from that near not loss, from whatever we want to call it. And so that's mistaken. Mike is only now done with McCoy. I mean, it was clear in 2 weeks, Mike, that Mike McCoy was a disaster at this. He's just not good at this. He wasn't good at this 10 years ago when there was a reason for him to get a job, or somebody saw reason for him to get a job. There's no reason for him to get a job now. Sean says, team has nothing to lose. You go for it when the opportunities arise. I don't think that's like a blanket thing, but I certainly think it's more often than they've done it thing. Absolutely. T-Main Xana says, I'm glad I flew in for last week's game, not this one. Holy shit, this offense is the worst I've ever seen. Derek says, he likes what I said about the last few games feeling like there was progress. I think this game was really revealing, unfortunately, and I think that's true. The CRA's been a fan of this team for 30 years, so the length of time I've been covering it, and he doesn't fall for any of it. Literally, I'm going to clean up his grammar. Literally, every coach that got hired the year Callie did is going good, except maybe Morris. Then, of course, you have Benny and Liam. Every coach hired the year Callie did is going well. I mean, that's a rare. Usually a incoming class, and I don't have that list in front of me if somebody wants to give it to me, but usually, you know, some are good, some are average, some suck. Well, realistically, what could Vrabel do with this roster is not the right question. Realistically, where would Vrabel have this roster? What would Vrabel's input into this roster have been? I think is a more reasonable question. There are certain guys that would not be here. There are certain guys that were here last year that wouldn't have been here, that maybe wouldn't have led them, you know, where they wound up in the draft. I don't know. It sure seems colder in those stands watching this team play. It's cold today also. So I think it seems colder because it's colder. Yeah, look, I mean, gift wrap seems kind. We've been over this. I'm a standings guy. There's a win in the standings for the Arizona game. Certainly Arizona gift wrapped it. The Titans had to do some things to go win the game anyway. But if DeMarcado doesn't let go of the ball before he hits the goal line, which is an asinine play in the NFL or in football in general, then they don't win that game. Do I think, Will Bloodworth asks, Jeffery Simmons' comments about leadership were directed simply at Mike McCoy or Barganzi? Sorry for spelling. Largely at Mike McCoy. I mean, the coach sets the culture during the season. This is the first time in 12 years, Dalton said, that I've turned a game off. It's unreal how dog shit this fucking team is. I mean, I would word it that way if I were you. I don't really get I guess I've turned a game off here and there. I'm a baseball fan, so my team's a baseball team, so it's not that big a deal to turn off a baseball game when you're disgusted because they play 10 times as many games. Cam's been saying that all year. Big Red says, Happy Cam was matter of fact about going for it on fourth. He likes to place all the blame on him and stay neutral, and that felt good at least. He says that all the time, though, about going for it on fourth. That's not new. He's been saying it. Jeremy, I tend to agree with this, says, these people saying they're done are not done and will continue watching because they know Titans football is over with in just over a month. Take it in while you have it. Did Mike McCoy, Ken wants to know, did Mike McCoy win the interim job in a raffle? C. Wagner wants to know, he says, I would love to know how Amy sleeps at night, knowing she's turned this team into an all-time dumpster fire. Amy sleeps very well at night on a very expensive, comfortable mattress. Sometimes the one that's in Nashville suburbs, sometimes the one that's in Waller, Texas, sometimes in one that's in a very pricey hotel. It's all-time dumpster fire. This is where Titans fans just, no offense, C. Wagner, but this is where Titans fans kind of lose touch with reality. Yeah, I mean, this could be a 1-16 season, completely possible. It's still not a 0-16 season, which we've seen a couple of, right? Browns did it, Lions did it. Also, like, this is 2 very bad years. Titans had 2 very bad years under Wisenhunt. Teams have gone like long. Titans were the number 1 seed in the AFC 5 years ago. Don't make me do this thing. Like, don't act like you're long-suffering Titans fan. Go look up teams like that have had really long times being bad. You're not the Lions of the Lions' heyday of being bad. You're not the Browns of the Browns' heyday of being bad. You're not the Jets of the Jets' heyday of being bad. So if you need historical lessons, that's a thing that you need to do. But don't pretend like your suffering is comparable to the worst suffering NFL fans have ever suffered. Jags are mediocre, Nick says, and today's result was what happens when mediocre meets poor. Did the Jags win their 8th game today? I mean, you can say they're mediocre, but they're in the playoff hunt. I have no idea about this. Colin Russell says, how has Latham gotten so much worse from last year to this year? With dropping the weight and with moving back to his natural position, he is this much worse. It's crazy. He's got to find some balance. And I think his biggest issue is his want to. I feel like Latham, amongst all the people in the Titans locker room, all the people on this team, whose desire do I question? There's 2 guys in the starting lineup who I wonder about. They're from the same draft class. They're at the top of the same draft class, and they're Rand Carthon's top guys. and they're J.C. Latham and Tavondre Sweat. Ward is not coached not to run. Josh says, is Ward afraid to run or coached not to? Last week was very helpful. He is not coached not to run. They urged him to run. Urged him to run. He found less opportunity today, and he only ran one time. One time for 7 yards. It's bad. Pollard was very good, especially very early. First half, first quarter. But they just got away with it. Got away from it. Well, both the Nissan Stadium crowd and Titans players were completely flat out of the gate. I don't agree with that because Titans had a pretty good drive early. Their scoring drive was the best offense they played all day. They went 70 yards and 11 plays in 6 minutes. So I actually thought that was a pretty good drive. Pollard was running the ball well during that drive. But I don't expect the crowd to make any noise unless the Titans give them something to make noise for. First comes the good play, then comes the noise. Not the noise doesn't create the plays. Secondary is really bad. I know people have been raving about Kevin Winston. I didn't see it today at all. And, he's playing nickel. The two corners are bad. Baker doesn't look anything like Baker looked last season. Harris needs a lot of time. I don't want to hear talk that Levis is better. He's just not better. Levis's high moments look nothing like Cam Ward's high moments, did they? The running game is a disaster. I agree with that, Nick. Pollard at that salary number isn't it. But Pollard's gone after this year, and they need a top flight running back, lead running back. And Spears, people are too excited about Spears. Spears is a gadget pass catching back. He cannot run between the tackles. And so when you have a back in the backfield that can't run between the tackles, it's pretty good tell about what defenses need to do and what they don't need to do. So, he's a very limited guy. Everybody keeps saying it's Gruden. It's not Gruden because they sent him a box of stuff. Do people know that Gruden opens a box of stuff from a team every week? Like that wasn't a special Titans thing. D-Rod, you have to let go of this idea. There is no way to get Amy to sell the team. Get her caught in some harassment scandal. Harassment. You say potato, I say potato. Jaquan says, we suck, no way around it. Owner ran this team into the ground, listening to people with personal agendas. This team's a damn soap opera. Well, she hired a bad GM. She listens to her son-in-law. She hired a bad coach. I don't blame her as much for Callahan. If I had to guess, how many of today's 22 offensive and defensive starters are playing a big role to start 2026? This is a good exercise from Sammy. Let's go. Isle Manor, third or fourth wide receiver next year. Gunnar Helm, starter. Dan Moore, starter. Peter Skoronski, starter. Corey Levin, backup. Kevin Zeitler, gone. J.C. Latham, probably a starter. Chigakonkwo, don't know. Van Jefferson, gone. Cam Ward, starter. Tony Pollard, gone. Somebody do a count on that? I should have had it. Defense, Arden Key. What's Arden Key's contract situation? I think Arden Key's gone. That's part of the culture problem right there. Jeffery Simmons, starter. Sweat, probably here. Hottie Ward, I think they'd like to re-sign him. Cedric Gray, starter. Cody Barton, probably starter. Harris, backup. Baker, maybe depth. Hooker, starter. Winston, starter. Woods, gone. I don't know if anybody kept a count on that. Brian says, Amy wants a coach she can control. We'll never have a Vrabel or a Campbell until she's let go. She can't be let go. She does the letting go. She's the one who knocks. If she lets her people hire Brinker and Borgonzi, mostly Borgonzi, I hope, then she'll get a strong head coach. If she wants to win again, she should get a strong head coach. Did I anticipate it being this bad, seeing this staff day in and day out? No. But, I mean, I thought that Callahan would grow in the job and that with a new quarterback, he would be better and the play calling would be better and all of that stuff would get better. And it didn't get better. And so, you know, I don't know what you do with that. I don't know what you do with that. He wasn't a good coach. Edley's Barbecue. You can get a holiday bonus card there. You buy $50 in gift cards. You get a $25 bonus card. That's available until December 31st. They're redeemable until March 31st in 2026. Edley's Barbecue is fantastic. Locations, 5 points in East Nashville, 12 South, Sylvan Park, Chattanooga, Glen Carbon, O'Fallon. I don't even know where those places are. Donaldson, Nolansville, Franklin and Berry Farms, Franklin and the Factory, Gallatin. Listen, they've got the best deal with their app. If you can't make it to one of their restaurants, download their app. You put in your zip code. It tells you if they deliver to you. Almost everybody watching that's in the Nashville area is in range of one of these restaurants. You order on the app. The delivery fee is minimal compared to the delivery apps that you're used to. You order up. They deliver fast, hot, well packaged. It's like they want to make it like you're eating in the restaurant, and that is what it is like. I did it last night. Couldn't have been happier with the service. It was fast. It was hot. It's delicious. Price is very reasonable. The portions are very big. You can't go wrong eating at Edley's Barbecue. Check it out. Make it out to a restaurant soon. Have a business lunch there this week. Take the family there for dinner. You can't go wrong eating at Edley's. Check it out. This Levis bullshit, Big Red says, drives me insane. Do people have amnesia from last year? Levis might bounce back and become a starter, but never on the Titans. It's certainly never on the Titans. He's got incredibly low trade value, and he's really got to work his way up. For Cam being conservative, I wonder how often his primary read on the play is just a 5-yard route. You cannot complain about Cam being conservative after one game. He is a big game hunter. He always looks long. You cannot complain after one game. You can't. I'm not allowing it. It's not happening here. If we don't get a decent coaching staff, Josh says, who can develop them, then it doesn't matter who we draft. That's absolutely true. I mean, they have to get a good coach. Have to. Now, if I'm a Titans fan, and I'm urging you, Titans fans, to put faith and to urge this thing to run through Mike Borgonzi. All right? I don't think Borgonzi's proven at this stage. He's the best football person here. He's the best football person attached to the Titans. Want him to be the most influential person. I probably wish that I had stayed at the family gathering instead of coming back to see this game. Well, the family gathering broke up. Everybody had work to get back to. Sammy asks, he couldn't tell from the broadcast, did it look like receivers were getting open down the field a bit, but Cam wouldn't pull the trigger? I think he pulled the trigger and threw at people's feet and threw wide. He was off target. many times with open guys. Alec missed one game, so I don't know that you could say you're better with him off the field, but he certainly he was good. He was a good player for them early, and he's not been a good player for them for a long time. And he was the worst he's been all season today, I think. Breakthrough says, "We are a disgrace to the state, the nation, and the game of football." I thought Levin looked especially good during Pollard's early runs. I thought he looked good during those early runs. What was the announced crowd at Nissan? They don't announce the crowd. They announced tickets distributed, and they announced tickets distributed as 54,098, which is a low number. They rarely go down there. I can't remember them being under, maybe the last game they were at 58, 59. They don't go below 60. So, I'm not saying those numbers are honest. I'm saying for them to get under 60, they're having trouble distributing tickets if they're saying that, because I don't think that number's truthful. Do we think Borgonzi gets to run the coaching search and keep Amy and Nihil out of it until the end? Look, no. Borgonzi and Brinker are running the coaching search together. They've said that from the start of this. I don't know how you keep Amy out of it. Nihil is not, a lead guy in the football stuff. He's in it as much as Amy wants him to be in it. Yeah, Dixie's talking about don't write off the Jags. They beat Justin Herbert and the Chargers big 2 weeks ago. Yeah, they've also lost to a shit team or two. Wasn't Gerard Mayo hired in Cali's cycle? There you go. So who was it that said everybody hired in Cali's cycle except Cali's doing great? Gerard Mayo was hired ahead of Cali, fired ahead of Cali. You say you hate the coaching staff. Who's the inside linebackers coach, Ivan? Who's the outside linebackers coach? Ivan hates this coaching staff. He likes the GM's picks through the first draft. We play stupid football, and it started week one with the bad coach and has continued. Who's the safeties coach? Did Cam have the flu? It looked like Mason Kinsey could have done better at quarterback. That was a development. Mason Kinsey did not play. That was a nice development. Broadcast mentioned 31 other teams. Doubt the number. Called about Jeff, but he wanted to stay and be part of the turnaround. Any truth to this report? I think Jeff, given his choice, probably wanted to stay. But I think Jeff, if the Titans approached him and said, "Hey, we can trade you to Buffalo," and Buffalo, they told him the offer that Buffalo was giving him in terms of guaranteed money on that day. I think Jeff would have liked that guaranteed money and the idea to go up there and be a piece for Buffalo to maybe make a big playoff push. Can this franchise be 500 in 2026 with good moves in the draft and free agency? Well, first they have to hire the right coach. So I'm not putting anything personnel-wise ahead of hiring the right coach. But can it be 500, 8-9, 9-8? Crazy things happen around the league all the time. So, yes, it is not getting into Jets territory. It is not getting into Jets territory. How long did the Jets go without being in an AFC championship game? Before Rex Ryan. Like from from I can't think of Ken O'Brien to Rex Ryan. How long was that? Yeah, as Sammy says, stop making me defend this crap team by overstating. I'm not overstating anything about how bad this team is this year. But the idea that this team has been horrific for eternity is just insane. You don't have to go back this far. Elliott's going to the late 90s, early 2000s. You could go to 2020. Jets. Somebody's telling me about the Jets. Jets went to the an AFC title game under Parcells in the late 90s and lost to Elway in Denver. All right. So maybe before that. From then back to Richard Todd, they had a huge streak where they did not do well, long suffering. We could take the Jets out of it if you want. Look at the Browns and the Lions and for how long they've been bad. For Titans fans to say that they are like in that level is just ridiculous. When 5 years ago they were the number one seed in the AFC. It's just ridiculous. You're not. Stop saying it. Are they really bottom of the barrel bad right now? Are they as bad as any team has been in a given season in a long time? Absolutely. Winston looked like a box safety in this game, Sammy. Winston did not have a good game after that first drive. How much of the struggles for the safety this year can we pin on the quarterbacks playing, not being top 3 week one? I mean, the cornerbacks being bad is bad, but he was playing nickel corner a lot of this game. And so two bad corners shouldn't kill the nickel. The nickel's got to cover slot. Now, he was playing a lot of box stuff and doing a lot of stuff near the line of scrimmage, and he looks good at that, but he's got to be able to cover, and he didn't look like he was able to cover. Yeah, I don't buy this. Will says the rumors were Berganzi and Brinker had the firing of Callahan kind of sprung on them. The firing of Callahan kind of sprung on them? That being said, oh, yeah, I do buy that. Should the choice of interim coach be a concern for us going into a coaching search? Look, I think you can't promote Fossil there because you want him to be your special teams coach for the next 2 years, at least under the next guy. He should be under contract, coordinator signed for 3 years generally. So you just got him. You'd like him to stay. If you hire him as your head coach, you're writing a new contract for him. And then what do you do to keep him here as your special teams coach? That gets complicated. So I think that's in the equation there. And I think they made a bad call on, they don't want to disrupt the defense. So you don't give it to Denard Wilson. That's clearly a mistake. He did revert back to special teams coach in L.A., but I don't know if the Titans are as skilled as LA was to be able to pull that off. And I think that could have been a concern here. I think they made an absolute horrendous mistake with Mike McCoy. He's not qualified for the job. It didn't go the direction that an interim coach should go with the job. Has no alpha qualities in him whatsoever. Is a beta old school coach who doesn't understand the direction the league has gone, has no motivating qualities to him whatsoever in terms of players, any of that. He's a horrific choice. They shouldn't have let him, now that I've come to know what he is, in the building as a senior assistant. Spears has heart. That's terrific. You can't give a guy with heart the ball to go up the middle if he's going to get stuffed every time. I don't give a fuck about his heart. He's a gadget specialty player who can catch the ball in space and maybe run around the edge. I'm not hiring my players based on heart. I'm hiring them based on skill. Now, I want them to have a heart with the skill. But if they don't have skill, I don't care about their heart. Yeah, I mean, this is confusing about Latham, but this is why college resume doesn't automatically transfer to the NFL. Otherwise, you just spit everything into a computer, and your needs and college resumes and the draft would be a sheet of paper. Dalton says he remembers watching Latham's college tape and legit. If he got his hands on you, the rep was over. He was that powerful. Looks like a totally different player. It's up here more than anything. And my guy, Drew Beatty, really hates the way he can't anchor consistently on film. Josh, they're not tanking. Josh says, I think we've tanked enough. They're sucking. There's a difference between tanking and sucking. You guys with this thing about roughing the kicker don't seem to understand. You can't touch him there. He touched him. He slid into him, and he touched him. I don't understand why you think this is some anti-Titans conspiracy. The same thing with Arden Key. He's going over there. The quarterback's on his way down. Don't touch him anywhere near his head. Just don't. It's not that hard. This isn't a conspiracy against the Titans. It's a stupid play by Arden Key. Don't touch him anywhere near his head. That way you're guaranteed not to get fucking called for anything. If you touch him near his head, guess what happens? There's the potential for you to get called for roughing the passer. And that's what happens. Those two plays aren't about the officials. Those two plays are about the Titans being fucking stupid. Now, I will say this with regard to roughing the punter. The Titans, like now, Fossil says, hey, we're willing to take a few penalties on special teams to push the envelope. Jim Washburn, the Titans used to jump the snap once in a while on the defensive line in exchange for better get off in the end and to maybe threaten the quarterback a little bit. Whoa, these guys are really breathing down my neck, right? So there was a certain trade-off they'd make. If I'm the Titans, I would take that trade-off in exchange for the fact that they haven't blocked a fucking punt since 2012. I would rough the punter a couple times because you're not going anywhere. And so if you give them an extra set of downs, particularly in their own end zone or whatever, well, it's unfortunate. Sell out to block a fucking punt. If you happen to rough the punter, well, you say, you know what? This year we're going to actually block a punt for the first time since 2012. And if we rough the passer a couple times, if we rough the punter a couple times, well, that's going to be a consequence of us and our determination to block a fucking punt. They went away from Pollard, Andrew, because they don't know how to sustain something because they couldn't get any first downs. She wasn't too slow to fire John Robinson. RP says, I wonder if Amy is quick to fire now because she felt she was too slow to fire John Robinson. She fired John Robinson 8 or 9 games into a new contract. How is that slow to fire John Robinson? Jeremiah Love in a trade down situation, Robert says. Look, they need a bell cow running back. If they take a bell cow running back ahead of a receiver, an edge, or a cornerback, I think it's crazy talk. Zeitler's been a big disappointment. I like this plan. It's 6-1. Maybe you heard me talking about this. Sign Breece Hall. You've got a lot of money. If the new coach likes him, if he's a fit for him, sign Breece Hall. Let money carry you. Breece Hall, you get 2 years out of him off of the 3-year deal. And in 2 years, hopefully your roster's built up enough, and then you can go get the best running back in a draft. Yeah, Robert, it was hard based on the way McCoy talked to know exactly how predetermined this was. But he told us in the press conference that they were going to go for it if it was 4th and 2, and they were going to kick if it was 4th and 3. So a matter of 3 feet made up his mind on that. It's kind of crazy. AFC South, I will not be surprised to see Houston ultimately win the AFC South. But I didn't see much of I didn't see any of today's game, so I need to kind of get a look. John Gruden is not getting hired here. Do I think Arden's a culture problem? I think Arden's better when things are going good. I don't think Arden's a great culture guy. I don't think he's a great culture guy. Could Frisk buy her out? She doesn't want to sell. She's not in the market to sell. Why would you sell something that is so profitable? Frisk. Carson Kelly says he was here today, just getting home. Team regressed from the past week. Play calling was bad. Too conservative on 4th downs. Boneheaded penalties. Looked ass again. Hooker has rib injury and is being further assessed. Mike LaFleur or Mike McDaniel would be Salah's offensive coordinator. Heath says, I do believe Borgonzi is legit, just ready to wash off the Carthon Robinson Callahan stink and get on with it. Borgonzi knew what this roster was. He did, but still stings. It's hard. Why do they always derail the first drive with a misdirection or trick play once they get around the opponent's 30? At least it wasn't negative yards today. It was a 1 yard end around. But I tweeted that as soon as it happened. There's no reason to do that. If Mike Tomlin gets hired, he'll get a look for every job. He's not getting fired. Don't be mean to Nihil or you get fired. Who? Most needed. So Bill Norfleet is asking if a running back is most needed. I don't know how. I mean, you can find running backs a hell of a lot more easily. I understand this team has historically had success around running backs drafted in the 1st and 2nd round. But I think in 2025, you can find a running back later or in free agency more easily than you can find the things that this team is severely lacking at higher skill positions, edge, receiver, and corner. Firing Brian accomplished nothing. I disagree with that. They're still horrible. Yes, they can't score, but they've been better. I think Femi will reemerge in the next couple of weeks. There are too many people, Derek Williams said, involved in the decision-making. Mike should be responsible for all personnel and coaching decisions moving forward. This collaborative approach is ineffective. I agree with that. I think Borgonzi should be in charge of everything. Bustin Diamond thinks that the city, the franchise or the city is cursed. Again, 5 years ago, the Titans were very good. Is that cursed? Yeah, there have been a lot of teams. I'm going to disagree with this too. Sean says, without some serious free agent depth additions in the offseason, the prospects for an improved 2026 is not probable. A good draft class will help, but this team looks several years away from being competitive. Well, who said that they're not going to do some serious free agent depth shopping? They've got the most cap room, the second most cap room in the league. Of course, they're going to shop for the right kind of free agents. Hey, I don't think Manning, Marty Clark is asking, who's the number one pick? Manning out of the question. I don't think Manning is going into the draft. And I think the Titans, if they had the number one pick, whether Manning's out or not, would be dealing it to somebody that wants a quarterback. What happens if Borgonzi and Brinker disagree? Who has the final say? They would work until they agree. So if one of them wanted one coach and one of them wanted another coach, then they would say, all right, who's the third coach that we agree on? Ghost, let's address this before this gets out of hand as we get close to wrapping up. Cam losing his love for the game is extremely alarming. He did not say in any way, shape, or form, I've lost my love of the game. He was asked, are all the hits and losses piling up? Does it wear on your faith? Does it wear on your love of the game? And he said, yes. So, no, it's not gone. It's challenged. There's a big difference between those two things. Here is the list. So this is the list of the guys that were hired the same year as, I think this is what we're trying to do. The list of the guys that were hired the same time as Callahan. Harbaugh, McDonald, Quinn, Canales. He refuses to include, for some reason, New England with, now I'm going to forget his name, and we've talked about him, who was fired after 1 year. I don't know why he doesn't count. So why doesn't he count? Harbaugh, is an established coach. But yeah, the other three hitting is good, and Brian Callahan not hitting is really bad. So is New England missing. Now they've hired another coach and already are having success with Mike Vrabel. But are we going to pretend that they didn't hire a coach who failed in 1 year? Apparently you are. I'm not. All right, we're going to take one more. I'm going to go all the way down to the most recent. Gerard Mayo. We're going to pretend Gerard Mayo doesn't exist. I don't know. Thank you all for helping me. Justin Platt is coming to games for the sentimental value at this point. I don't know what that does for you on the sentimental value, but more power to you. I do not know more than Mike McCoy. I'm not equipped to coach this game. Daboll's kind of a hothead. Look, Daboll's resume is written largely on, I'd be wary of guys like this. Guys whose big success was with a big-time quarterback and who haven't had much success out of that. That's why Joe Brady. What is Joe Brady's biggest accomplishment? Not with Josh Allen. What is Brian Daboll's biggest accomplishment? Not with Josh Allen. if your biggest accomplishment was with one great quarterback, then I would look for something different, somebody more. How can we fix the offensive line? Look, you got to hire a great head coach who's got a great offensive line coach. Now, there's no reason the Titans should have thought that Bill Callahan was not going to be that. Bill Callahan is still going to be high on people's lists. I have no idea why it didn't work for Bill Callahan in Tennessee. It's a huge disappointment. Still regarded around the league as one of the top offensive line coaches. Going to get a job if he wants one. And I hope for Titans fans' sake, his mojo has waned and he's not going to go somewhere and be a stud again. If he is, that would really suck that he lost his mojo for 2 years in Tennessee and did well. Does well somewhere else after this. Need good coaches who can get to these players and get the most out of Moore, who I think is the left tackle for another year, out of Latham, who's going to be on this roster and hopefully at right tackle, out of Jackson Slater, who you hope emerges into the starting lineup as a center or a guard, keeps Skoronski going and can help you find another starter and keep refining the depth. But that's all you can do. All you can do. Eat at Edley's Barbecue. Use their app. Get it on your phone. Can't do better. Subscribe to paulkuharsky.com. If you've enjoyed this conversation, you're not a member of my site, I'll send you a text telling you when this is starting, when other podcasts are starting. You get Blake Bedingfield's scouting review of this game tomorrow. You get Drew Beatty's film review of an element of this game, somebody or something, on Wednesdays. You get a column from Mike Herndon, a great analytical mind, on something Titans related late in the week. You get Braden Gall on college related things pertaining to the Titans in the draft. You get all of my analysis and insight, all for the price, less than the price of a fancy cup of coffee or a fancy cocktail, $7.50 a month. Plus, you support the independent journalism that so many of you seem to like in terms of the way I interact with Mike McCoy and the organization in general, holding their feet to the fire. Somebody's got to do it if I'm not there. Who's it going to be? Who's it going to be? Thank you for being here. Don't block the box, and be sure to lock your locks.